Thank freaking goodness we are at the end of this god-awful year.
Oh my God, I can tell me about it. I feel like this year was just filled with so many negative things that I'm just so happy it's coming to an end, honestly. But you know what? In 2021, we're going in with a positive mindset.
Pandemic or not, we are going into this year. Positive thoughts, leaving the negative in 2020.
I love it.
You know that song? I heard it on TikTok. It's like, fuck 2020.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That is like the theme song
Fuck
of my
2020.
life. All right, guys, for those that are here for the first time, I am Bianca, and I'm a work-at-home mom to 2 littles.
And I'm Crystal, a stay-at-home mom to 2 little ones. And this is Messy Buns and Coffee Runs podcast.
This is a no bullshit girl talk through all things mamahood and lifestyle where there's a space for everyone. So, Crystal, I want to hear your thoughts on 2020.
All right, let's just say first things first.
It's damn year,
I'm
man.
going to say that I will admit that as shitty as the year was, I don't feel like I had it as shitty as other people.
100%.
I feel like I actually kind of lucked out this year. This year helped me thrive a lot. Just other circumstances stuck, right? Like being stuck in the house and stuff. But I became a stay-at-home mom and realized how much I loved it. I was able to take care of my family. I was able to take care of myself a little bit more. That kept me at home. And honestly, I feel like I feel like this year was a year of growth, right? Like I feel like although there were some really shitty circumstances, because I mean this essentially new normal right now really sucks. Like not even being able to take my kids to the park really sucks, but I feel like I grew a lot as a person this year. My marriage grew a lot this year, I feel like.
Oh, I love that.
And I feel like me as a mother, I grew a lot this year thanks to my
I think so
new
too.
addition.
Absolutely.
Like I've changed a lot as a mom and I'm really, really happy. So not to say for nothing, like 2020 has had its like ups, definitely has had its downs.
I love it.
So now I want to ask you about 2020 because I know you and I had a very different 2020.
Yeah. So 2020 was actually really rough because, I mean, starting from the beginning, I was without work. I was one of the unlucky people who completely was without work.
And you weren't able to get relief.
Nothing. I wasn't able to qualify for any. There wasn't a whole lot of help for small businesses like myself that are kind of more like freelancers, I guess. And I literally lost like 3 months completely without zero income.
That's crazy.
So that was really hard for me, more on a personal level because Ethan's in the military. I mean, one of the most secure jobs you can have. But it was a personal thing. Like I just hated being without money. I hated not making money. I feel like I was just bored out of my life. It took a big toll on my mental health.
Oh, yeah.
I, and like so many other people, struggled so hard with
having to be in the house.
Just stay-at-home order was rough. My kids had a rough time with it. And it was hard to, I'm not a person that does good with change. And so that really kind of took my mental health for a toll. But there were some good things that happened this year. Ethan got into the MESET program, which is...
But also came with him leaving for 3 months.
Yes.
That kind of sucked.
You know, he did get into the program. That program is a blessing because
awesome.
He is going to be home for the next 3 years and he'll be able to focus on school and be a full-time student. So that was a blessing. He went to OCS, and while it was a big negative, he graduated, which is such a tough course to graduate.
Totally.
And he was able to graduate and kind of move on in the next steps of, you know, continuing on in the program. And so that was really nice. Other than that, I mean, not a whole lot other huge positives, I guess. I did lose like a decent amount of weight.
Yeah, you lost 30 pounds, which was awesome.
Do you want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
You know the reason why I wanted to lose weight? Because I was afraid that if I got COVID, I'd be one of those people because I was so overweight that like I would be one of those people that like needed a respirator or ventilator.
What?
It's the only reason. Yeah. Did you know that? It was my...
No, you never told me that. What the fuck? That's an odd reason to lose weight.
So I was like, holy shit, if I don't lose weight, because they say people who like the more overweight you are, the more like susceptible you are to like, for if you did get COVID, like you would get more sick.
Yeah.
So I was terrified of it.
At least you took like the possibility of getting a disease that's super spreadable and made it into a positive.
Somewhat of a positive, right?
Yeah, you made it into like you made a healthy lifestyle change, which is great. So I mean, there were positive things that came from this year.
Yeah, and you know what? I will take the positives, and my new outlook on it is, you know, even though the pandemic is still, I mean, it's kind of getting worse right now.
Yeah.
But I am going to decide to. There's still a lot to do over here, at least so far in San Diego. I'm going to do as much as I can with my kids, and I'm not going to let them feel a difference between this year and any other year of their life. This year, while I want them to see, instead of it being, there was a pandemic and our life was flipped upside down, I want them to be like, we had a great 2020, but there was also a pandemic.
Absolutely. I love that. I feel like that's the way I'm starting to look at 2020 now. Like, yeah, it was kind of a dumpster fire every year.
Yeah,
like
just with
in general,
everything.
the election, people out of work, people losing their businesses. But thankfully, we were able to like make it through, and there were some positives that came from it. And I feel like 2020 kind of like helped set the groundwork for a lot of the changes that I plan on making, not just as a person, but as a mother and in my marriage. Like, I feel like Julio feels the exact same way. Like, he feels more driven than ever to get his goals done.
Yeah, and I think that's why I'm so excited about doing this episode today. This episode isn't probably as upbeat or like exciting or juicy as some of the other ones, even though we do have a really cool tea time at the end of it.
Totally.
This is still an episode I really want to get out into the universe, because I'm one of those people that it's like, let's talk about the positive and manifest it.
Yeah.
I want everybody on this journey with us. I want everybody to stop their life for a second. Stop the life before the new year hits. Stop what you're doing. And I really want everyone to reflect. Reflect, because it was such a shit of a year.
Yeah.
Let's leave it in 2020. Yes, the pandemic
really put to the test. Yeah.
The pandemic is still going to probably be real in 2021. But hey, we already know this. We know what to expect going into 2021. Our hopes aren't too high for 2021. But you know what? There are still personal goals that we can achieve regardless of the pandemic or not.
Yeah, I agree. So then, you know what? On the topic of personal goals, you know, you see that a lot. New year, new goals. But you know what?
New year, new me.
New year, new bitch. But that's not so cliche as it is true, right?
Absolutely.
So I want to ask you first, what goals did you have last year, and did you meet them?
I actually did. For the first year in a really long time, I met my goals.
Really? What was it?
My goal was to lose some weight, and I did.
Okay, awesome.
A decent amount of weight, and I did. My other goal was to get back into school, and I started going back to school in January. So in December, I told myself, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to finish it up, and I'm going to stop being a fucking procrastinating, dumb bitch. And I'm going to fucking do this.
All the positivity.
All the positivity. And I basically gave myself a kick in the ass. I'm like, I'm going to go back. I'm going to, finish off my goals. And I have, even while Ethan was gone, I have still continued to go to school, even though it got really hard for a second. I almost didn't take classes this term.
Yeah.
I still pushed through and I did it. And I still lost weight. So I actually, even though 2020 was a dumpster fire, I actually didn't meet two of my main goals.
Yeah.
What
Which
about
will
you?
ultimately set you up for next year, right?
What about you?
I fucking love that. Honestly, to be totally frank, and this probably sounds compared to especially what you're saying, like your business goals and your personal goals with school and stuff. My goal ultimately going into 2021 was just two things. It was to grow as a person, because the start to 2020 was really, really rough for me. And to survive being a stay-at-home mom, to be totally frank with you, I went from working and going to school full-time and taking care of my toddler and doing all the other things that I was like involved in when it comes to school. And then I just stopped.
Yeah.
I finished my bachelor's. I quit my job. I
went from 100 to 0.
Literally. So I was really, really fearful of how that transition would go from having help with my kid, because, Julio's working and we had a full-time babysitter, to doing it all on my own and with two. So my goal was mostly just to
survive
and try to be the best mom that I could be through like what was going on. Because I had Camila, and 2 weeks later, less than 2 weeks, we went to the stay-home orders on the 15th. So, and I will happily say that I feel like I met those goals. I grew a ton as a person. And I surprisingly found out I love being a mom way more than I thought I did.
Yeah. I could see a huge change in you this year too, and I love it.
This year's been good for me, and I feel like we got really, really we've always been close, but I feel like we've learned to really lean on each other this 100%. Year, which is why we started this, because I feel like we are more aligned in our lives than we ever have been, and we always, what's funny is we always talked about doing something together.
Oh
right?
my God!
Remember, we wanted to move in together, we want to go to college together, something, and just life kept happening, and now it's like, holy shit, we really do have something.
And so I think that us starting this podcast is a huge accomplishment of 2020. And it's been so much fun.
Yeah.
And even doing the husband's episode, I mean, so much
That
fun.
one's going to be a lot of fun for people to listen to for sure.
Well, they already listened to it by the time I hear this one.
Oh, that's right. That's right. No, sorry, we're recording. It's the end of the day. But yeah, I agree. Like, I feel like although 2020 was really, really hard, God, like if it didn't kind of kick some people in the ass and like say, hey, get your shit together. Like I will say I've never supported small businesses as much as I did this year. And it's amazing the way people will thrive if they're forced to.
Yeah.
The way I saw so many people I didn't even know were interested in opening up their own business.
And so many
businesses
just thinking so out of the box to continue to keep things running. And I just have so much respect for small business owners, and really hats off to everybody who was able to hustle their ass off to make sure that the pandemic didn't hit their family too hard.
Yeah. I know. I mean, I will say like, I know somebody that we know lost nearly everything. Like he's probably going to be moving out of California because they've lost it all. All of his investment is gone, but homeboy was right there, like door dashing it. He's postmating it. He's doing everything he can to feed his family because he's got 3 kids. And I feel like I've seen some people. I'm like, I don't even know personally, and I feel
I'm still
just so proud
of them.
Yeah,
in the same way.
The way to see
the resilience.
Yes, and you know what? You gotta admire that about the human spirit, that we can come out on top one way or another if we really, really want to. Yeah. And I know I made some like new friends. I got closer to even though we weren't allowed to see each other, I feel like I got closer on a deeper, more intimate level to my friends because we were forced to do nothing but talk, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like I met a lot of new friends. Like, do you have, I don't know if you do, but do you have those friends on Instagram that you only have on Instagram?
Yes,
You've
I
never
have so
met
many.
them?
And I call them all my friends.
Yeah, and me too. I always refer to them as my friends through Julio. But like, you cheer for them. You feel like you almost like love them. I have those people, and then I've never met them before.
You followed their journey I have this girl that I followed on Instagram since Ethan and I first got married. I have followed her Instagram. I met her in person once, but through her first marriage, her divorce, she met a new guy, had a miscarriage, got married, and now she has a baby. When she had a baby, I was messaging her like every single day.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, you're almost there. Oh my God, you're almost there. I'm so excited. Every time she posts a belly update, can't wait. I'm on pins and needles over here. Yeah.
100%. Like, I feel like I have friends like that. You know what's funny is I feel almost more comfortable like having these conversations with people I've never met before. There's this girl on my Instagram. She's a younger mom, and her dad unfortunately has COVID. He's in the hospital right now. And I'm asking her like every day, like how her dad is doing on a more intimate level though. Like, how are things going with your family? I find myself having these conversations, putting myself out there more for friendships that I didn't think would be possible. Cause we've talked about, my low self-esteem or insecurities, things I'm working on. And that's part of it, is always thinking that people aren't going to like me. So, and being fearful they won't. So I just won't put myself out there like that.
Yeah.
And I'm trying. At least I'm trying, right? It's not perfect, but I'm trying.
Yeah, at least you're trying. That's more than a lot of people can say.
So I know you were talking about like even just going into next year and setting goals for yourself, but putting them on paper. And I was just curious for you to like elaborate more on that, the importance of putting it on paper.
The importance of writing things down on paper, it's insane. It's okay, because putting it on paper is almost making it like a tangible thing,
like a contract.
Yeah, and you kind of hold yourself a little more accountable to it. So I want to challenge everybody listening to this, as you hear us talking about goals and whatnot. If you hear a goal that you want to achieve, or you think of a goal based off what we're talking about or anything, I encourage you and challenge you to write these down.
Yeah.
I really want you to write it down, and you can share it with us, you cannot share it with us, but write them on paper. I feel like if you write it down, you manifest it, you see it every day, you hold yourself accountable by writing it down, you're one step closer to achieving your goals.
Right. Well, speaking of writing things down, it's funny that you mentioned that, right? Because going into 2020, my birthday's at the beginning of March, and I will be turning 30. And I've been very vocal about excited about turning 30. I'm one of those people that's like genuinely enjoying getting older, because I don't miss the uncertainty of my early 20s, right? Life has gotten sweeter, and I realized something now that we're talking about goals is I kind of wanted to write something down for my kids, like write it down on my 30th birthday. I've been thinking about it now, and then I'll give it to them like on their 18th or something.
Oh, I love that.
And I wanted to do 30 things I learned by 30. And
Crystal,
one of those
such
things,
a good idea.
One of those things was something that I felt like, and I heard this somewhere and it resonated with me so much. And I realized something that we talk about goals in the new year and motivating ourselves to do something new or to put ourselves out there or to attain whatever goal we put out for ourselves. But in my very short time here on earth, I realized that it's not motivation. You need to change your mindset. It's dedication.
Yes.
Motivation will only take you so far, and you can run out of motivation. But dedication, if you dedicate yourself to something, you don't need constant motivation, because when you lose motivation, you have the commitment and the dedication.
Yeah.
Committing to things and seeing them through is so important, and it works so much better than finding a million inspirational quotes to motivate you.
Yep.
Building that part of your character, that when you set your mind to something, I've started reading also that book,
Like
that
self-accountability,
grit,
Oh my
where
God,
it says
yeah.
having the mentality of you start or you finish what you start. Having that mentality is dedication, and dedication will take you so much further than motivation ever will.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. That to me should be on a freaking t-shirt, and I'll wear it every day. And here's the thing too. I do not care if you've had the same goal. I have had the same goal.
These kids are having so much fun downstairs.
I've had the same goal of wanting to go back to school and lose weight for years now.
Yeah.
And I've written it down every single year. Every single year I've had the same goal, and I never met it. This year, lucky enough, I don't know what happened, but I did. But here's the thing, and this is what I don't want people to get discouraged. If it's the same goal you've had for 5, 6, 7 years, I don't care.
Keep writing it down.
Writing it down and even having the goal in the first place is the first step.
Yeah.
One day it will happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what are you going to do to get there?
I feel like
Small, achievable goals.
That's why it's so important to make your goals realistic and start off small. I know you have your big overarching goals, but you got to start off small, because those small steps and those small goals that you make to get to the big goal are basically like your blueprint and your roadmap for getting and achieving that big goal. It's easy to say, oh, I'd love to make $1 million, but you got to do a lot of work to get there.
Yeah.
And what is the work? What are the small goals in order to reach there? I feel like that's something that 2020 I feel like has taught me, that I hope to pass on to my kids, that I did not have until I turned 29 this year, is instant gratification. Trying to get better at it. So trying to get better with needing things right there and then. I will tell you something. This is something that my husband was a lot better at than I was, and he has a lot of patience in the sense, like, I know we've talked about me having patience with the kids, but when it comes to buying things, for instance, being an impulse buyer, I tend to be really impulsive when I buy things, or used to be. And now if it costs over a certain amount of dollars, we've learned that as much as we want it, we need to sit on the decision and think it out. Like, it took us like well over 6 months to decide on whether to pull the trigger of the van. Finally, with TikTok, I was like, that's freaking enough. Like, I saw it on TikTok. It looks beautiful. Let's do it. Even our vacuum was really expensive. Fucking love my vacuum, by the way. And impulse me, because we could afford to buy it, would be like, well, let's just get it. If we're going to buy it eventually, let's just buy it now. Yeah. And I've learned there is really, really beauty in learning to be a little bit more patient, because not only do you appreciate things more, I feel like, but I learned that I was more willing to learn how to maintain that thing that I liked. I treat like my vacuum, I know it's just a vacuum, but I love that thing. And if you're a stay-at-home mom, you know how much it is important to have a good vacuum. I learned while I was waiting and weighing the decision of whether that was smart for my family to spend that amount of money on a vacuum. I also learned like how to maintenance it. Who do I call if something was broken? I would have never done that before. And I feel like that is something that 2020 has taught me a lot, that I hope to pass on to my kids. So I feel like there's something to teaching your kids too about, you're not always going to get what you want when you want it. Sometimes you got to work a little hard for it. And I know we were talking about, that brings us into like the family goals that I know we were discussing, which is something that Ethan brought to all of our attention, which I love. Julie and I love that idea. Tell him what it's about.
So Ethan came home from OCS, and I swear this man came home a different freaking man. He was so driven, and I think it was that book you sent him, and he really got into reading again. He loves to read. He just kind of picks it up every now and then. He stops, and he'll pick it up again.
It's the time.
Yeah. And so he's reading a lot and loves to read motivational books, and he was telling me that we need to plan a day. Like, we're going to get a babysitter. We're going to go somewhere. We're going to plan this out, where we sit down and we write all of our personal goals. But I don't just want personal goals. Mm-hmm. He's like, I want to create goals as a family. What are we going to do as a family unit to achieve certain goals that we have? And I thought this was the most amazing idea ever. And not just goals, but resolutions, right? Like, what can we do as a family? What do we want to incorporate into our lives that will improve our family, our dynamic, and our children's lives, right? And it doesn't have to be anything huge. Small, achievable goals, right?
Yes. For anybody, just a real quick thing. I learned this in school. It's called SMART goal setting. A goal to be smart is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and you have a time limit for it. So just if anybody's like a research buff, like I had mentioned before.
For example, some of the things that Ethan wants to do is he wants to get the kids more active. Now, we're a pretty active family in the sense of we don't just sit in the house. We always get the house, we go to the zoo. We never bring the stroller wherever we go. The kids walk everywhere. But he wants to start incorporating hikes and doing more nature stuff with the kids.
Right.
I love that idea. I would love for my kids to be more into nature and, exercising and stuff like that. It's such a big part of Ethan's life because he loves to exercise and stuff. And I know he wants to incorporate it in our kids' life. So I will take the bullet and I'll put on my hiking boots. So that's one thing he really wants to incorporate. Another thing he wants to incorporate is having like more of a structured week, which can mean a lot of things. For him, it means mostly like have certain days where we sit down as a family and we plan out days where we're all going to read. This is the day where no matter what, I don't care how busy we get, we're going to sit down together and we're going to all read a book together. We're all going to do this together. So small things that he wants to change as a family to help our kids grow up.
He wants them to be well-rounded.
So you think about it. We have these ideas of what we want our kids to be.
Yep.
We know what we want to achieve as a parent. We want our kids to be self-sufficient. We want them to be accomplished. We want them to be healthy and active and make great decisions. But what are we doing right now in their lives?
Are you giving them the tools?
Are we giving them those tools to become these people that we want?
Okay, so funny you mentioned this, right? So I love everything you're saying about the family goals, and I think that's something Julio and I are definitely going to have to put on paper because, I always talk to you about what our main goals are, right? Like Julio still wants to finish school. For those that don't know, my husband has his bachelor's in nursing, but he wants to get a DNP, and that's a huge goal for our family, right? Because that'll set up for our family. It sets him up and he's attained that. But this year, I know I told you about, I started dipping a lot into like the Montessori way, and I'm not perfect Montessori, but I say Montessori adjacent, right? But the one thing that I took away from the Montessori way of raising kids and teaching them is I love the way they present, the way kids should look at problems. And I love the way they think is best for kids to learn. So for instance, I think I called you and I told you about, I bought Ben that step stool that goes all the way to the top of the... Yeah.
So he can be more involved.
So he can be more involved with the things that I'm doing every day by touching it with his hands, by washing dishes. And yes, that also means things get really dirty because obviously I'm washing dishes to like get them clean and I'm exhausted. I just want to get them done. But if he wants to help me and have that also bond with me, that time with me, yes, he's going to make a bigger mess than he's going to help, but he's learning a valuable life skill. And even like his fake cars, you've seen, I think I've posted about him washing his fake car, like teaching him these life skills. I've told you this before about like one thing I've come to realize a lot on my journey is your kids are going to do what you do and not what you say. If Julio's out there every Saturday washing the cars, Ben will eventually gain that habit and he won't know where it's coming from. He'll just realize someone's going to tell him one day, like, damn, you wash your car every Saturday. He's going to be like, you know what? I think my dad used to do it every Saturday. Instead of if Julio sat on the couch and said, Ben, it's really important for a man to learn to wash his cars every Saturday, to keep them clean, but he never did it.
Yeah.
Ben will never do it. Yeah. Like same thing with Camila. If I tell Camila a woman should have choices and be well read and be able to make decisions for herself, she'll never do it if I don't do those things. So I mean, I'm a reader already as it is. So my kids see me read it, and I see that even with Ben's behavior specifically, because Mila's still a baby. But during the day, Ben will randomly just pick up books, and not just his books, but my books, and just like flip the pages. And that's because he's watching me do it. If I never picked up a book, how would he know what they're for?
Yeah, I'm really big on teaching my kids do as I do, not so much do as I say.
Yeah, 100%. Because you also have to hold yourself accountable,
Absolutely.
Right? We read in our house every single day. And I'm talking about even like on a lazy day, the bare minimum is he's read to at night. There's not a night he goes to sleep without being read to first. But we read multiple books during the day, right? Reading's a very, very big deal in my house. But that also means for Julio, same thing. I'm like, even if you're just looking at the book and not actually reading it, he needs to see you do it because it has to come from both of us.
Absolutely.
And these things start with making changes with yourselves. Making goals for your family starts with making changes with the head of the family, which is yourselves, right? The first ones. You want your kids to be more active. I agree. Like I told you about, it was raining in California. Camila took her morning nap. I slept on Ben's rain boots and his rain jacket. And yeah, I got a few messages like, oh, that baby's going to get a cold if you don't bring him inside. But
yeah, of course.
I'm going to let him play in the puddles and I'm going to let him play in the rain a little bit so he can feel the rain. He can feel the texture, see what things are like when they're wet. Yeah. Like just let him explore.
Let him live his life.
Babies are curious. Let them be curious. Ben was going through it's called like a sensitive period of like whatever they're doing. He's going through a sensitive period where he's climbing everything. And as much as my mama heart wants to be like, don't climb that, like you're going to fall and eat shit, stay on the ground. Unless it's super dangerous, I'm letting him do it. I'm letting him explore, let him get his feet wet, letting him, hurt his bones a little bit. Like let him do this and learn through doing. So I understand what Ethan means by like wanting them to stay active and stay in nature, which is more of just like, I want you to touch things. I want you to experience things. And I want to foster a natural curiosity we all have as humans.
Exactly.
I feel like we lose that along the way of trying to just be these perfect humans that never do anything wrong. I want to foster the fact that my kids are curious. I want them to ask questions. I want them to question and think logically and for themselves. And that all starts with their own actions. Yeah. It starts with what they see in the home. And honestly, yeah. And that's why it's hard for parents because you figure, you're the parent and now you have all this authority and you're like the sayer of all things. Yeah. You magically now know everything. So because you're the parent and you provide everything, you no longer have to, one, grow as a person or be accountable for your actions.
And that's what we really want is us being accountable is the most important thing because I can't sit here and tell my kids, like, you need to eat healthy and you need to do this and you need to do that when Ethan and I are eating like crap and we're not working out. Like, that's why we made such a change in our lives last year. And Ethan's always kind of been not healthy as in what he eats because he eats.
But he's active.
He's very active. He works out every single day and he also works out at work. So he's consistently extremely active. He will take the kids to the gym with him and they will see him working out. Obviously they'll be in the daycare, but they'll see him getting ready to go to the gym.
But they also see other people.
And they know what daddy's doing when they're going with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why we really want to incorporate hikes. Just something like that we can do as a family. Even if it's just starting at like trails before we start conquering like hills and stuff, like just let's go put our hiking boots on and let's go walk, find a trail and let's go walk it.
Yeah.
Let's get out every Saturday. Like let's make it a thing to do this, at least starting off once a month. We love to do it a little bit more. Instead of maybe going to breakfast that morning, why don't we eat a breakfast at home and go for a hike?
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like I just want to incorporate, we want these things for our kids.
Yes. Exactly.
And we want them to be a certain way, and we hope that we're raising them a certain way. But when you really sit back and reflect on it, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
To make sure that what you want in the end is achievable.
We can all say that we want our kids to go off to college and be doctors, but are you making sure that academics come first in your house?
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Like, these are things that I feel like if there's something that we could take away from, like, growing as people, and what I've at least taken away from this journey is, like, God, I have to... Things start now. It starts from the minute that they come out. Your kids will emulate a lot of the same life you have unless they decide to make an active change, right?
Yep.
If you want your kids to do something, you have to show them how to do it.
Yep.
I'm not going to tell Ben, you need to be a doctor because that's what you need to do. But then never encourage him to read, never encourage him to study. Don't show him how to study. Leave him to his own devices and make everything else more important than school.
Yes, exactly.
That's not something what are you doing to give not just your kids, but yourself the tools to succeed? It is all about your parents because our kids want nothing more to be loved and accepted by their parents. And this is something we can't take that power lightly, right? Like,
oh my God,
that's not something we
not
can
at
take.
all. That is such a huge responsibility that when you decide to have children, you take on that responsibility.
Yeah.
And I think that we're so big on making sure kids always come first and we always do what's best for them. And all of our decisions are based around our children and how we can better their lives. And I think if we don't hold ourselves accountable to be the people we want our kids to not only be, but be proud of.
Yeah, 100%.
Then what are we doing? What are we doing as parents? I feel like the main thing to take away from this, for both of us too, not just people listening, what I want us to write down goals for our family. Not for us, yes, for us too, but let's start with our family. What is that we want to do as a family to better ourselves in our unit. It doesn't have to be your quintessential eating healthy, doing healthy things.
Because it could even just be like, you know what, we're going to substitute one dinner a night for something healthier. Like it's not like, oh my God, we're going to go to the gym every single day, you guys, and then we're going to eat brown rice and quinoa. Like that's not what it is.
How about we take away the iPads for an hour on Tuesday and we all sit down and we play a board game?
Yeah.
There's things that we can do to really encourage the family life.
Small habits, you guys,
yes.
come from a place of like, your kids will pick up these habits and I know something actually funny you say that, right? I know you and I have had very deep talks about us having that nasty habit of picking things up and then dropping them just as fast.
Yes.
And I told Julio this, that as much as I'm thinking, right, like I'm doing everything I can for my kids to make sure that they're not doing that, I'm still doing that. So this is the time, and we've talked about this, about how I will no longer be doing that. If I decide to pick up a habit, I will be seeing it through until I can't anymore. Because ultimately, as much as I'm going to preach to my kids and make them like see things through like sports or whatever they decide to do, ultimately, if I'm not doing it and they're not watching an example, like following things through, they're not going to do it.
I think that's such a good point. I actually was having this conversation with our brother about the importance of keeping your word and your commitment. Mm-hmm. Because we were really bad with that as kids. And
oh, fuck yeah.
And it's affected me as an adult. Mm-hmm. And so I have had to hold myself accountable. And it started this year when I finally started holding myself accountable. When I was like, you know what? I said I was going to finish school. I'm going to finish. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get this shit done. No more fucking excuses.
Yeah.
If I want my kids to do it, I'm going to do it too. My husband's going back to school at 30. I can do it too. Yeah. Like, so I really want for us to hold each other accountable this year too. Yeah. Let's set our goals, hold each other accountable. Find someone to hold yourself accountable to. Find somebody you're close to. Set these goals together.
Yeah.
And you guys can hold yourself accountable.
You know what I was going to tell you too? I feel like, you know, I mentioned earlier that this year was a big growing year for us too, like together. Mm-hmm. As sisters, the whole Easter situation, when we were talking about how we had made a promise from then on that we would just be blatantly communicate with each other.
Yep.
We always we have that, our family has that like uncomfortable thing where we don't like to talk about things.
Yeah.
And you and I had decided that that's how things get mixed up and that's how miscommunications happen. Mm-hmm. So from now on, as weird as it sounds, because it's uncomfortable, we will have those talks. Or I will just like do a quick like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Hey, like, no more of like, why do I want to do this because she might say this, or you know what? No, I think she's thinking that, so I won't do that. No,
let's just say how we feel.
Let's just say how we feel. And like we said, hold people accountable for their actions and for the shit that they do. Mm-hmm. And you know what? If I can't hold you accountable for your actions because I can't control what you do, I can set boundaries for me. Yeah. It's 2020 and we're setting boundaries. We're protecting our families. We're protecting our energy. We're protecting our mental health. That's what we're doing in what we're doing in 2021 at least. I learned that a lot in 2020. You can be there for people, but your family comes first. Anybody who loves you will understand that because I understand that for my friends too. You know what I mean?
I love it. Manifesting all the positive thoughts for 2021.
Ooh.
Speaking of personal goals, I kind of had a thought that kind of came into my mind, and I wanted to talk about it with you. And this can kind of go into our burning question of the week. You make goals every year, right? Mm-hmm. And whether you see them out or not, I feel like those goals make us change as people.
Right.
Who I am as a 27-year-old woman is not who I was when I got married at 19.
Okay.
I am such a different person in all the best ways now than I was then.
I already love what this is going, yeah.
We grow and change, and our views on life change, our views on, marriage and kids and work and careers, and so much change in your life, even just year to year, month to month, right? Mm-hmm. So what happens when our personal goals change us as humans, therefore shifting the terms of your marriage from when you began that marriage?
Right.
For example, okay, do you watch Total Divas or Total Bellas?
No, but I'm getting very into it because
love them. love them, okay? So I was watching Total Bellas, and Brie and Brian are married. Brie is a twin. Mm-hmm. Nicole, they were WWE divas, right? Brie is married to Brian. Now, if you watch Total Divas, okay, so Total Divas was the show. Then they had their own spinoff, Total Bellas. But Total Divas, the first 5 seasons, it was like Total Divas. And then during season 6, between season 5 and 6 is when Total Bellas began, right?
Okay.
Season 1 of Total Divas, you're kind of introduced to the cast. Brie and Brian were in the cast from the very beginning. And you really learn about them and their relationship. They're very much like hippies.
Yeah, they were like holistic, right?
Holistic. They cook their own food. They're very much farm to table vegans. I mean, they're very into that type of culture.
Yeah, really
right?
big health nuts. I remember.
Yes, they are. He was from Washington and he really believed in living a simple life. He didn't want more than what he needed
They
in
even
life.
had like a woodsy wedding and stuff too, right?
Yes. Yeah. He didn't want to consume more than he needed to in this world. Very much environmentally friendly. Did not want a big house. If it were up to him, he would live in a 1,000 square foot house with him, his wife, and his 2 kids, and that was it. They would survive. And she was very much the same way. She was always, her and her sister, the Bella twins, right? And they kind of do business together.
Yeah.
Her sister was married or dating John Cena,
Yeah, I remember
which
that.
is, he's very successful. She had more of his personality where she wanted to take on all these projects and wanted
Yeah, she
more and more and
lavished
more.
the big
Very
lifestyle.
much a businesswoman and whatnot. And Brie always kind of would hold her back because she was like, I don't need all this. I enjoy spending time with my husband.
Yeah, totally.
I want just enough to like enjoy what I did. Love wrestling. I'm going to do this and maybe a couple more projects. But for the most part, like I enjoy what I'm doing.
And they're like the thing that sucks is they're a brand because they're twins, right? Like their brand is together.
Yes. So they have to do a lot of things together. And she is very vocal about wanting to live a certain lifestyle. She doesn't want more than what she needs, whereas Nicole wants to do a lot more.
Right.
Flash forward to Total Bella season like 3 or something. And there's an episode where they have so many different companies. They have like 4 or 5 companies.
Wow.
And they're so incredibly busy. And they have the reality TV show. So they're in LA and Brian has not seen Brie much at all. So he decides him and Birdie, their daughter, are going to go to LA with her to do all the press and conferences and meetings that she has. And she tells him, like, I can't get as much done with you guys here because I have all these meetings and I'm trying to rush through the meetings and I'm trying to spend time with you guys. But like I have all these meetings and
More
other
of a distraction.
Yes. And so she asked if he can take the baby home because Birdie was not sleeping well either. So can you take Birdie home so she can be at home and relax instead of here? And he got really upset. And he's like, when we got married, he's like, when am I supposed to spend time with you? Like when we got married, we agreed on a simple life.
Yeah.
We agreed that we were going to live in, because now they live in a really big home.
Yeah.
And they have 1 kid and she broke the news to him. She only wants 1 kid now. She doesn't
wow.
want 2 anymore. And he's like, why the hell do we live in this 3,000 square foot home?
Yeah.
If we're only going to have 1 kid.
Why does she not want to have another kid, did she say?
They're just super busy and her career took
okay.
off, right?
Okay.
And he's like, we agreed that we were going to have 2 kids. We agreed that we were going to live a simple life. We agreed that we didn't need all of this money. We don't keep, how much more money do we need?
Yeah.
And he was very upset with the fact that, and he even says, he's like, when we got married, we were on the same page.
Yeah.
We wanted the same things. Now, 5-6 years later, we could not be further apart. We are growing completely apart.
Yeah.
And it had me thinking, like, she's not wrong.
Yeah.
For her career and wanting a career and changing her mind. And I do want a career.
No one's
you know
wrong
what?
for
I do
changing
want
their
more.
mind.
No, she's not wrong either for
Yeah.
saying, you know what, this is what we agreed on. This is what I wanted.
They're both not wrong, which really, really sucks.
Yes. Right?
Because there's no clear solution because someone will lose out.
So in a situation like this, thankfully they had another baby. They had a surprise baby. They worked on their marriage and they're fine now. Apparently, I don't know. I'm not their friend or anything.
Yeah.
But
You talked to them last week.
I talked to them last week, like on Twitter. But look, they seem fine now. But here's my thing. I feel like a big reason so many marriages don't work is you drift apart and you grow apart, right? What happens if the terms of your marriage change? Like in that situation, what do you do?
So, okay, it's interesting you say that, right? Because I'm like, I mean, I don't know. I've only been married for 5 years, so it's like a baby marriage at this point. But compared to like people who've been married for 50, right? But I know you and I had this conversation about how, I mean, like it kind of sucks, but it almost feels like luck almost just plays a part in whether your marriage will work or not. Because the ability to change together as a couple through life's ups and downs, it is so, I don't think people realize it when they hop into marriages. It is so much more, there's so many more problems that can happen in marriage than just financial and cheating. Because I feel like those are the 2 main things people tell you to look out for, right? No, the littlest things will cause fights. Like I told you about that marriage retreat we went on. The amount of things these scenarios that pop up, it's
Yeah.
the everyday things you can't agree on. What religion are you raising the baby? How will you handle credit card debt? What happens if one person puts you into credit card debt? Who is it that person's responsibility to get
Like
out
what
both of
happens
you?
if I decided I was going to be a career woman and then I have my babies? Now I want to be a
Exactly.
stay-at-home mom.
Or what happens
How
to
are
the
you gonna be
opposite,
okay
where
with
you
that?
agree that you're going to be stay home and now you want to be a career woman. Like there's so many things that life, because you're allowed to change as people, right? That's part of the beauty of being a person, is like being able to grow throughout the years. But if you can't grow together, it is so hard. Julio and I have changed so much since the beginning of our marriage. The amount of things that have changed about us, the way we see things, the way we approach problems, I had to unlearn, not just him, but I had to unlearn a lot of nasty habits that I had when it came to relationships. And thankfully he was patient enough with me.
Same.
But what if he hadn't been? He wouldn't have been wrong.
Yeah.
For not like seeing things the way I saw things, or me not seeing things the way he saw things. Even just talking about last episode with the husbands, we were talking about how Julio and I have changed our parenting almost like 180 at this point of how we'll parent our kids. That could be a huge deal breaker because they're children.
Yeah.
Like parenting and how you plan on raising your kids is such a big deal. No one is wrong for wanting to change, but I feel like that's when you get to the point in your marriage, you have to discuss what's more important at this point.
I think I have a little bit of a different experience with that because I was more like you, where I'm like, I knew what I wanted out of life. I was so stern about the things that I wanted and things I was going to do. Ethan was he's the type of guy that's very much like fly on the edge of your seat. He does like, for example, if we were to talk about the future, he would be like, this would be nice. Like if you wanted to work, that'd be great. If you didn't work, that'd be fine.
I can't live my life like that.
And he's like, well, but he's very much like, we'll see when the time comes.
Yeah.
Let's not put all our eggs in one basket. Let's not set these things in store. I'm not like that. I'm like, this is what I want. This is my plan. This is my plan
The instant
right now.
gratification though, because that comes from like, I need to know because I need to know now because I hate the unknown.
Yes. And so for me, I think it was easier for him to grow with me because he was so flexible from the beginning. He had almost like no set expectations.
Okay.
He was more of like, we will figure this out together as we get there. I was a little bit different, and which is why I think I'm so hard on myself because I had these plans for my life and they haven't gone as planned.
Yeah, and they rarely ever do.
And of course. And for me, I almost felt like I did myself dirty because I didn't follow through with those plans. Yeah. I feel like a husband can feel that way when you say you're going to do this. You're going to be, let's say, a career woman. And then you have your baby and you're like, you know what? No anymore. I want to be a stay-at-home mom. This is what I think my calling is.
Yeah.
I've changed my mind. I can see where a husband can feel
this is a huge financial burden.
like, whoa, this was not what we had planned.
Yeah.
I can see how it can make, it just sucks because in those situations, nobody's right, nobody's wrong.
Well, you know what's funny is you say that, and I think about like an overwhelming majority of people who get divorced because they have, not because they had kids, but it's always after the kids. And it's because, some people feel like, I knew my wife as one person. She was so much fun and she was great and we were funny and we used to hang out and drink and party. And then some people, when they get into that mom role, they really get into that mom role. And they're leaps and bounds from the person that they once were. It's like, I don't even know you
I feel like
anymore.
that was you.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the difference here is Julio was never like that. Julio was always ready to be a family man. So me settling down to be a family woman was a big plus.
By you can plan out and try to choose your partner as much as you can. But I do really believe that a lot of it comes down to luck.
Yeah. Luck and flexibility.
Because you can't, you cannot picture what a person is going to be like 10 years from now.
100%, which is what makes, I feel like, marriage so scary because
yes,
people are allowed to change and they're allowed to change what they want. But you have to remember that, like, as you're changing and making these changes, you always have one person beside you, either all for it, but also making sacrifices too, right? It's okay to grow resentment. It's okay to grow apart. But I guess that's where you would have to go to like a professional to tell you and to get you into the next direction. Because I don't know what to do. What's the solution when no one's wrong?
I think
you're allowed
having
to change.
a partner who is going to be willing to accept you at every stage in your life is the key.
Yeah.
And be flexible with you and want to grow with you as humans. Because I swore I was going to be like a freaking marketing director in corporate America by now.
Yeah.
And I thought that's where my life would be. I literally thought I'd be working in like corporate America. I really thought I would be by now.
I think it takes your partner knowing you though, because I feel like although you change, and you could change for the better, I don't feel like anybody, I mean, I don't know, but switching from day to night is a difficult change. So like, for instance, like, I know that some of the changes that we've made, I feel like our husband's always kind of known the people that we are. And we've always kind of like known we'd be family people eventually, like be moms and such. And so just like how we'll get there is always just up for interpretation. But like, okay, I'd tell you something, just like the Brie thing and the Brian thing, right? Where you went from like one end of the spectrum to the other one. Instance, I married a person who I knew was a very hardworking man who liked to work. Julio generally enjoys working. If he suddenly became like a hippie who didn't want to work, I'd be like, how the fuck are we going to eat? Like, those big changes would be like, whoa, stop. Whoa, hold on. What the fuck is going on? Like, it doesn't make, just because theirs is the opposite in which she's making so much more money than they want. It doesn't make it any easier. It's still like, that's not, for him, it's almost probably gross that they're living in such a big house.
Yes, it is. So, and they actually ended up moving, within the last month, actually. They moved to Sonoma and they moved into a much smaller home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for him, it's probably just like such a, most people would assume, more better, but like not for him. So he's not wrong. And that's got to be really hard to deal with a partner you feel like you don't recognize.
Yes.
But I feel like part of, like you said, is having a partner who's going to learn to love you through all your stages in life. I have changed a ton as a person. I know you have. And I know we can both agree that our husbands have learned to love us through us unlearning some really bad habits and unhealthy behaviors. But at least we all have the same end goal in mind. Yep. I want you to get better. We're still technically on the same page, I guess.
I think that's the most important thing, is making sure you guys are always, your end goals are always the same, no matter how different of a route you take to get there.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I feel like this is like one of those things where you have to know the person you married in the sense of like really know them, because you're never going to know them until you're married to them. People change so much. Life happens. And it's so, I mean, marriage is so much more than just money and infidelity. People change, and I feel like the shit that gets really hard in marriage is the stuff that life throws at you. What happens if one of your parents dies and your partner's now in a deep depression because they can't handle the death of their parent? So that affects your marriage.
Going back to Brie and Brian, I admire their marriage so much. So Brian struggles with anxiety and depression, like crippling depression. And in season 1 of Total Bellas, you really see it. And her and Nicole actually get into a really big argument because Nicole's like, I feel like you're losing yourself because you're so deep into his issues and his problems. Like, I see you miserable because he's been so miserable for so long. And she is just like, do I want my husband to be depressed? Fuck no. Like, do I wish he wasn't clinically depressed and needed therapies and medications and all these doctors? Hell no.
Yeah.
But if you think I'm going to leave him because of this, you're really fucking mistaken. Yeah. Like, they go at it over like a series of episodes over this topic. And she's very much like, his dad had passed away the same year. He had to medically retire from wrestling.
Yeah.
Wrestling was like his ultimate dream, but they forced him to retire because he had a neck issue or something, a major head injury or something. And it was so many things at once, and he just lost it. I just admire her for being there for him so much when he was like, he missed her last match, her retirement match, because she decided to retire to help her to have kids and whatnot. He didn't make it to the match because he was too depressed. He didn't make it to her mom's wedding because he was too depressed. And she's like, that could really cause issues for people. Like, you're not going to be supportive to me. And at first I'm sitting there thinking like, fuck, I'd be fucking pissed. Like, what do you mean you're not going to be there for me after I'm here for you for all of this? Like, you can't make it to my match. Like, you can't make it to my retirement. Like, you're that depressed you can't make it to my retirement. But she's straight up like, it fucking sucks. But you know what? I will battle this with him. And sure enough, look at them now. They have 2 kids.
You know what it is too, just to like not send the wrong message either about that, because I feel like I was listening to something like No Nuance November a while ago. Not even a while ago, like not that long ago, but and this girl was talking about how like this whole culture of like ride or die. I don't give a fuck how many times he cheats on me. That's my man. I'm gonna ride or die for him. No, there is a difference sticking with your partner through a season of depression because life has hit him really, really hard, but in turn, he's not abusing you or affecting you in that way. And it's not affecting their kids. Because if he was doing something else, or like if he was depressed and then being like an asshole dad, that'd be a completely different conversation.
Absolutely.
But helping your partner through some serious life shit, that is really admirable. As long as it doesn't come at the expense of you yourself, as in like your children. And as long as the situation doesn't become so intoxicating, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I want to say, because I feel like I was listening to the new No Nuance November about that, and she talks. Oh, me too. But this girl, the one I sent you, that girl, is who I'm talking about. And she had mentioned that she goes, y'all think like this ride or die shit. Like, no, being with one person and sticking through all this cheating and lying and manipulating, like that shit is not ride or die shit. That's stupid shit. But it's one thing to stick with somebody through that, and it's another thing to stick through somebody whose dad passed away. He's clinically depressed. I know he was injured life from issues, wrestling. Man.
There's shit happens in life, and you're not always going to be perfect. And I think being able to stick with your partner through it and pushing through it, and you will come out the other end. Wanting to fight for it before, like Ethan mentioned in the last episode, that we did not have the easiest first 2 years of marriage. We had a fucking hard 2 marriages, but we both wanted the marriage to work so bad, and we both wanted. We didn't have kids then, so we knew we wanted a family together. We knew that we wanted to be together. You fight through the bullshit and you make it work. You fight when you grow. You fight when we drifted apart for a little bit. Those first 2 years, I was 19 too. I mean, I was going through a lot in life.
Out,
and we fought so hard for the marriage to be in such a great place that we are now. But it's funny because we always talk about how, we talked about this in the first episode, how marriage in the military, it's just a fucking disaster.
Yeah.
So I swear to God, if we were any other people in the military, we would have been divorced. We would have been those people divorced.
When we were recording the husband episode, I was thinking of that, about like what made like him change, like from the way he grew up to like deciding the way he would do things here, because had he decided not to make that change, if it was anybody else, you guys would have been divorced by now, especially the military.
Yeah. I think
about like things like that, right? Like when you comes to choosing a life partner, you're just praying to God you made the right decision. Yeah. And I think a big thing comes to it when it comes to choosing a life partner is you have to see how that person supports you. Yeah. When shit gets tough, how does that person step up? Because I'm telling you, things are easiest when you're dating. It's when you get married and start having kids that life starts hitting hard, because now you're combining not just finances, separate or joint bank accounts, either way, you still combine finances. You buy houses under both your names. You're buying cars. You're supporting children. Parents are dying. Accidents are happening. Like you're choosing a life partner who hopefully is there for you when life gets hard. Yeah. And you just pray to God that this person never loses their way, in the sense of like they don't make it so hard for you. Drift too far away from you. Exactly.
Well, let's leave the negative in 2020.
In 2020.
Let's bring in 2021 and move forward.
We are writing our goals. We are being supportive. We're supporting small businesses.
We are uplifting each other.
We're smashing our new goals.
Speaking of goals and whatnot, I did want to do a quick little plug, I guess you can call it. If you made it this far, I have a old coworker of mine who their story has really just like touched me so much. Mm-hmm. And I've been following their journey for so long. I haven't worked with her in like 5 years. And when I met her 5 years ago, they were already 2 years into their infertility journey. They have been struggling with infertility for so long and spent I think she said over 150K of treatments that they have now decided to go the adoption route. Oh, that's beautiful. So I would love to... I've donated, and she has cookbooks for sale. She has a coffee fundraiser. So it's not, you're not just donating money, you will get something in return. I think that's so amazing that
I love that.
They created a cookbook to like give a family cookbook to give people. So I really would love it if you guys even just took a look at their page and helped them out a little bit.
They're selling coffee. I'm all for coffee.
Yeah,
you know me.
$5 for coffee, $5 donation for the cookbook. They have an update on how much they've saved because they're on their adoption journey. Yeah, there's merch expensive. You can buy. It's so expensive. So if you made it this far, if you could just take a look at their story, even just share it on your social media pages.
We'll link it.
I would love to help this family kind of get started and
I love that.
On their journey. Their email will be, their website will be in our show notes, but it's the Hopeful Campers. Campers is spelled KAMP ffers.com, and all their information and social medias will be on there.
Please take a look.
Yes.
It doesn't cost you anything to take a look.
And even just to share it, it'll be so helpful. So
yeah.
Let's help that family get to their goals. Let's reach our goals.
Let's help a baby come home to a wonderful, loving family clearly who wants nothing more than them in the world.
And deserve it more than anything. But thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode of Messy Buns Coffee Runs. We're so excited.
I'm really, really happy we did this.
I cannot wait.
We're ending 2020 on a good note
2021 is going to be, we're manifesting positive thoughts, you guys.
I love
Alrighty,
it.
guys. We will see you.
See you in the new year.
And no, see you next year. See you guys in 2021.